Hey everybody, what's up? It's Craig Severinson and welcome to our live Q&A chat. So I'm really excited to be here with you and I hope that you can join us live. And as we go along, make sure that you're typing in the comments, your suggestions for the question as well. We call it the Q&A chat, but really that doesn't mean that I'm a guru or some sort of know-it-all. I'm just going to come with my 3 tips. And if you have suggestions or thoughts, please throw those in the comments. I'll read them out. We can have a nice discussion. And if you have any questions as well, throw your questions in there, and I'll be sure to clarify or to address your specific questions to your specific needs. And of course, this is the sweet spot. And thank you so much for being a member of the community. It's not been very long since we started this group, and it is just growing very organically, very naturally. And you being a part of it means a lot to everyone, because the more that we put into it, the more we get out of it, right? Like, this is really a support group for everybody. So if you have questions or comments, make sure that you bring them to this group so that we can benefit from everybody's wisdom. And I see Scott just jumped on and said, "Hi, Craig." Hi, Scott. How you doing? Good to see you. Okay, so the topic of today's discussion is how do I attract and land better clients, like a higher caliber of client. And I think that this is a super important conversation, because the quality of client that you have really affects your entire business. And as a solo pro, it's more than just your business, it's your entire life, right? The sweet spots kind of subtitle is where impact, freedom, and money meet. And if you think about it, clients, they influence all 3 of those aspects, right? Like, if you have good clients, you probably have a better impact on the world. If you've got good clients, you've probably got more freedom in your business and in your life. And if you've got good clients, you're going to be making more money. Versus if you have bad clients, like, your freedom is impinged because, man, you're answering emails at all hours of the night because they're so demanding. Your impact isn't as great because you're not working with people that you love to work with. And bad clients don't pay you as well as they should. So getting really good clients and even taking your game up so that you attract a higher caliber of clients, very important conversation. So this is what we're going to do. I've got 3 tips that I'm going to kind of lay out there of how can we get better clients. I think that this is a conversation that is a lot bigger than just three tips. So again, if you've got your own thoughts, make sure you put them in the comments and we'll discuss it. So tip number 1, and I've got my notes here, so if you see me looking over, that's what I'm doing. Tip number 1 is to focus on results. And what I see happen all the time is in our marketing, we're leading, especially in the PR and marketing realm, even with social media folks a little bit too, but we lead with the process of what we do, how we do what we do, and not the why or the results of what we do. And so, we end up, the conversation from the very beginning with the client is all about how long it takes to do something. How many hours does it take to pitch the media or to create this marketing campaign? How much time does it take? What's the process? And when we have that conversation over and over with the client, we're basically indoctrinating them or teaching them that that is the result that they're paying for. They're paying for the process. They're paying for the time. And so what do they get hyper-focused on is the process or the time. So every time you're having a conversation with them, they want to know, how much time is this going to take? And that's when they start nickel and diming you. That's when you get scope creep, because they're trying to get every ounce of your time away from you. Versus if you change the conversation away from process and you start talking about results, like why we do what we do. Like, okay, so you're going to do PR. Why are you doing PR? You're going to do a marketing campaign. Why are you doing marketing? So we're going to be on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Okay, why are we doing that? There's a result that we're trying to get. And you take that conversation to that layer back, right, away from process and about results. Suddenly your conversation is a lot more strategic. And that positions you less as an hourly vendor and more as a strategic partner who brings a lot more value to the table than just some sort of hourly fee or hourly process, right? So by taking that conversation from the beginning, I'm talking like from the very moment you start marketing, the very first time you talk with a client, if you're talking about results, that's when you kind of set yourself up to be that strategic partner. And what's cool about that is, one is it changes the mindset of your client. So a client that could be or potentially be a quote unquote bad client might end up being a really good client, because from the very beginning, their mindset has shifted so that now they're thinking strategically instead of process. Or the other thing is, it actually allows you to raise your rates to charge more money, because you're adding value, because you're becoming a strategic partner. You're not just coming in and saying, hey, I'm going to work for 10 hours a week or 5 hours a week and get this or that. I'm going to grab a drink real quick. So you actually get to charge more money. You get to make more money. And, that's also talking about results is also the first step to not charging hourly, which is probably a completely different conversation. I hate hourly rates. If you want to talk about hourly rates, let's get into it. But talking about results is your first step to getting away from hourly rates and start talking about project-based or retainer-based or something along those lines. Okay, so how do you do that? How do you talk about results? So I think, first of all, you have to identify what is your ultimate result. What is the big thing that you provide for people? And once you identify that ultimate result, then it's really a simple case of just putting that in the forefront. And in all of your marketing, what do you talk about? You talk about getting that result. I like to use my own business as an example. Yeah, I work with solo PR and marketing pros who want to who are frustrated their business isn't growing. I help them to land clients faster than they think possible. Sorry, I got distracted there because I saw Scott posted something in the comments. So thank you, Scott, for commenting. So I help them land clients faster than they think possible. So whenever I go out, all of my marketing, you read a blog post that I do, you see a speech that I'm giving, you see a Facebook Live that I'm doing, like this one, right? What am I talking about? I'm talking about getting clients. I'm talking about getting clients quickly. Like that's everything, the theme of everything I do. And you could do the same thing, right? So you're a marketing person and you're all about using emails to convert more leads, right? Get more clients through direct email or through cultivation campaigns. Or maybe you're a social media person and you're getting, more engagement with your clients, get better service through, great Facebook campaign or something like that. You got to identify what is your ultimate result and then put that at the forefront of everything you do. I call it, there's something I call the results-oriented marketing message. And this is totally my language, my jargon, right? But really what it is just a 3-sentence statement, 2 or 3 sentence statement that just becomes the theme of your business. And it's got 3 parts to it. It's got your niche, the problem your niche faces, and the result you help them provide. So if you look at my statement, I said I work with solo PR marketing and social media pros. So solo comms pros, that's my niche, who are frustrated their business isn't growing. There's the problem. I help them to land clients faster than they think possible. There's the result. And that's just, I don't use that word for word everywhere, but that's my mantra. I go out and that's what everywhere I go, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's tip number 1 for landing better clients, is to focus on results rather than like process or anything else. Like you got to really, what is your ultimate result? Really hone in on it and start putting that out there. And that's going to really drive, those that aren't interested in that deeper work, that strategic work, they're not going to hire you. And that's the point, right? We want to kind of weed them out. And those that want that deeper work, they're not responding to the process messaging because they want strategic partners, not an hourly vendor, right? And regardless of if you do hourly rates or not, I mean, that's a whole different conversation. You can talk about results and charge an hourly rate and get better clients. So tip number 1, talk about results. And Scott says, me too, I hate hourly rates. And I see we've got a lot of people who are here live with us. Make sure you're commenting. Tell me what you what you think, what you're learning. And if you have any comments as we go, throw them out there. Any thoughts too? Okay, thought number 2 or tip number 2. Maybe that's a good way. That's the word I'm looking for. is to focus on a niche. Okay, so why is focusing on a niche important for landing better clients? Well, first of all, let me say, like, niching down is something that I say, and marketers and PR, like you guys, immediately roll your eyes. You're like, of course we're supposed to niche down. But I got to tell you, my business, I focus on working with solo pros. I don't know if you can hear it. My neighbor decided to mow his lawn, and of course I've got a home office, so sorry if you can hear the lawnmower. I feel like I've got to scream over it. And I lost my train of thought. Okay, so you roll your eyes at me when I say, hey, you got to niche down. But I work with people just like you, and 90% of you guys aren't doing it. So odds are, if you're having trouble attracting the clients you want, you haven't niched down enough. And the thing is that saying I go after entrepreneurs or mid-sized businesses or businesses, like, that's a good start, but it's not deep enough. You've got to go a layer deeper than that. And it's important to attracting quality clients because you have got to build your know, like, trust factor enough for those quality people to want to hang out with you, right? Like, let's put an example. Like, if you want to access high caliber CEOs, you've got to build the trust factor to either get access to them, like the gatekeepers need to trust you, or they're smart people. They want to be able to trust that you are going to help them. So you've got to focus on a niche so that you can go deep with it and you can develop that trust with them so that then they'll feel comfortable hiring you. And that takes time, it takes effort, and the more you focus in on a niche, the more momentum you'll build, right? So really, it's all about building reputations, building momentum, building credibility is when you're niching down. So how do you do this? How do you niche down? Well, first of all, I would look at your client base and say, okay, who has been my client and who have I liked the best? Who's been my best client? And make that the beginning of your niche, right? Like, these are the types of people I think I want to work with. And the more narrow you get, the more success you'll have. There's this perception around niching down that you're going to, like, close doors or you're going to miss out or something along those lines. And really, niching down is all about activating an audience. So you're not missing out on anything. You're actually just building traction. So the more narrow you go, the more success you'll have. Most of us will never get even close to being too narrow. If a group exists and they have a problem that you can solve, and they will pay to solve that problem, you can build a business around it, right? So if a group exists, they have a problem that you can solve, and they're willing to pay to get that problem fixed, you can build a business around it, okay? So don't worry about going too narrow. Don't worry about missing out. Just get really narrow so that you can get some traction. And guess what? People from outside your niche are going to want to work with you, and that's cool. That's okay. Like, take the gig if you want the gig, right? Niching is not about exclusion. It's about activation. Okay. Scott and Tina both said that they're convinced that everyone on their block mows their lawn when they're doing stuff. So I'm glad I'm not the only one whose neighbor decides to mow at the wrong time. Okay, so my last tip here for landing higher quality clients is to set standards. Like, if you want better clients, you've got to know what a better client looks like. And you can't just say, oh, gosh darn, I wish my clients were better. You've got to know and look for those good clients. What do they look like? What do they act like? What exactly do you mean when you say a good quality client? And then go after them. And then when you get into a consultation or a sales conversation with somebody who's not a good client, somebody who wouldn't be a good fit, you've got to learn how to say no. You've got to get into a place of empowerment where you can say, hey, I don't think it's a good fit, but here's some resources. Good luck to you. Hope it all goes well. And a couple things about saying no. True freedom comes from being able to say no. Like, when you feel like you have to land this client, that's not freedom. That's, you're compulsed. Is that the right word? You're compelled. You're compelled to do it, right? So saying no is true freedom, but two, saying no actually is very respectable. I can't tell you the number of times that I said no to somebody and they turned around and gave me several referrals because they respected the fact that I knew who I could and could not help, and that I was willing to stand up for the fact that I said no. I was able to stand firm in my beliefs. And then two, I've said no to people, and man, they really then wanted to work with me. You said no? You've got standards? Oh my goodness, I really want to work with you. What do I have to do so that you'll take me on? And then you can have really cool conversations, like let's this is, if you want to work with me, these are the standards that you have to adhere to, or you're going to pay a premium so that you can work with me. Those are really cool conversations to have, and it all comes when you're able to say no. And also, along that same line, if you have bad clients, there's a balance. When you don't have money or food on the table, sometimes you got to work with bad clients. But you want to get to a point where you can fire people who aren't a good fit, who aren't working out. They're not getting the best out of you. You're not getting the best out of them. Go find people who do bring out the best in you, who you do your best work for them, right? Like, that's who you want to work with. So you've got to learn how to fire bad clients too. But both of those things, saying no to bad potential clients and firing bad current clients, they come with a price. And that price is consistent marketing. If you consistently market your business, you'll consistently have sales conversations, and then you'll be able to have that choice. If you only have one sales conversation a month, then you're going to feel compelled to say yes to that client. You are going to want to land that client with every ounce of your being. It's going to be make or break. I have to have this client. But if you've got 4 consultations a week, 3 consultations a week, if this guy's or gal isn't a good fit, no skin off your nose, right? Like, let's go to the next one. We got 3 more lined up, and you can actually start to choose your clients. So if you want that freedom of being able to choose, you've got to learn how to consistently market your business. And that's getting marketing off of your to-do list and then weaving it into the fabric of your business. And this is probably stuff that you tell your clients to do all the time. And so I'm going to ask you, are you doing what you tell your clients to do? Okay, very cool. So those are my 3 tips for today. What do you guys think? Any thoughts or comments? I see we've got a few here. Let me roll through them. We got a lot of people saying they hate they hate hourly rates too. I'm glad that we can agree on that. Tina's saying she loves the buffalo in the background. Yeah, I don't know who painted that, and I'd love to say that it's like an original or even something expensive, but honestly, I bought it at Target. Should I be embarrassed to admit that I bought that at Target? If you look at my whole office is probably Target stocked. Very cool. Tina says this is awesome. Thanks, Tina. I appreciate it. Okay, guys. Well, I mean, if there's no thoughts or questions or comments, let's continue the conversation after I end the video. Write in the comments your thoughts on these things. What are your tips for landing good clients? Like, what do you do to get good clients? And also, what are your questions? Like, did I answer all of your questions? Was I confusing in any way? Put those in the comments, and I'll respond to them for sure. And I'm sure other people in the community will too. And just before we go, a couple more comments coming in. Scott says, standards are a must, except like you said, when you're at the point where you need food on the table. Been there, done that, but it's not permanent, and it doesn't have to be. I think most of us have been there, Scott. I know in my experience, yeah, I don't know how many of you know my story, so I'll just give you a quick little brief. I started out as a 100% PR firm doing media pitching, and then I was good at what I did, but I was awful at getting clients. It was really, really frustrating. So I dedicated myself to figuring out how do you land really good clients. And during that time period, man, I worked with some really bad clients that I won't name names, obviously, but I did not like working for them. It was like dragged myself out of bed, forced myself to do this work, but really glad that I did it because I never compromised my standards, but I'm really glad I did it because it got me to where I am today, right? Like I was able to really define what my services were, what my calling was. I was able to get food on the table, all that stuff. Roberta King says, how detailed are the proposals you send clients? So that's almost a entirely different conversation, because my belief is instead of hourly rates, okay, so there's a lot coming out of my mouth right now, so I'm stumbling over my words. So first off, I typically don't do proposals. I tell my clients also to build packages that 90% of your clients are going to want to purchase, okay? So when you start talking about results, most people don't care how they get the results. They care about getting the results. So when you're in an industry where it's like a lot of us are, right? Where it's like you can do a lot of different things, instead of saying, hey, well, it depends on your situation. What are we going to do? I'm going to write a proposal and we're going to work it out. Just choose what it is you want to do and develop mastery over that thing and build a package that 90% of your clients are going to want to purchase. And that does two things for you. One, it gives you a base of what is standard work for you, right? What are your rates actually? It's not an hourly rate. It's like this much money for this thing. And then if somebody wants something above that, then I'll do a custom proposal, and I'll either do, there's two reasons why I do a proposal. One is if the budget is over 10 grand, and that's a rule of thumb. Between 10 and 20 grand, depending on the client, I'd probably do a proposal. Or if it's just super custom, it doesn't fall into the purview of any of my packages, then I would do a proposal. And when talking about proposals, I think the most effective way to do a proposal is actually to co-create the proposal with them. So it's almost like having a mini sales conversation with them, where you go through, hey, okay, what's the goal of this project together? What's the budget for this project together? What are the tools we want to use on this project? And you kind of co-create them together. So my proposals are about as detailed as a sales conversation, and Roberta, correct me if this is not what you're getting at, but I hear a lot of people say a lot of times, I don't want to give away the farm, right? Like I tell them exactly what to do in the proposal, and then they just steal my ideas and go and execute. So I don't go into detail about how I do my stuff, but here's the thing. If someone's going to steal your ideas, that's a bad client. You don't want to work with them anyway, so you dodged a bullet if they're going to steal your ideas. So honestly, in my opinion, put as much detail as you want in that proposal, but just make sure that they understand that you're the expert, and if they want those results, guess who they got to work with? Because anyone else could do this plan, but that doesn't mean they're going to get the results. You're the expert. You know how to get the results. Let me know if that answers your question, or if you've got any further comments. Tina says, the more narrow the niche, the better we are at marketing, even though this is tough to do. She's a memoir coach for a specific audience with specific needs for the results that they want. I 100% agree. Probably the hardest thing that you do as a business owner is choose your niche. There's nothing harder than it, because it feels like you're closing off. And you're not. You're really not. You're opening doors, but it feels like you're closing a lot of doors. So just remember, niching is about activation, not about exclusion. You're activating a certain audience. You're getting traction. You're getting them motivated. It's not about excluding anybody or saying no to anybody. As soon as someone from out, because here's the thing, it's like you're going after this niche. Well, all those people in that niche, they've got friends, they've got family. They're going to talk. The word of mouth is going to spread. So maybe you're focused on doctors, but that doctor knows a lawyer at church, and he talks to the lawyer, and the lawyer's like, man, I need that too. Guess what? The lawyer might come to you, and just because you're niche down, that doesn't mean you have to say, hey, no, I only work with doctors. Maybe that's what you say, but in all honesty, you could take that job. Very cool. Tina says, yeah, closing it off, it feels like that, but activation, not exclusion. She loves that. I love it too. Yeah, thanks for the feedback. Roberta says, there's the stealing of ideas, but mostly explaining what we can do for them and showing them what they'll get for the money. I feel like they need to know what they'll get. Yeah, so For sure. And I think first off, and think about this too. We don't buy process. Nobody buys process. We buy results. So the most important thing that the client wants is to know, can you get the results that I'm looking for? So what you are suggesting putting in a proposal, I would suggest talking through in a sales conversation, and then, having a package that kind of wraps it all up that you present during that sales conversation. So what do I mean by they don't buy process? When you buy a soda, right? You don't care necessarily, is it in a bottle, is it in a can, how do I drink it, do I drink it with a straw, do I drink it this or that? You choose your soda based on a flavor and how it makes you feel and how it makes you taste, right? Or it makes you taste and how it tastes, right? So you're wanting some sort of experience. And so certainly maybe there's some if a certain soda company was killing indigenous people somewhere in order to make that soda, obviously maybe there's some play in there. You're not going to want to buy that soda, even no matter how good it tastes. But most people don't really care about the process of how something happens. They just want the experience of it. So the most important thing is talking about those results. And if you start in your marketing with results, and then you base a sales conversation about how do you get those results and what results specifically are they looking for, then you can come in and say, okay, here's a pre-made package because you're my niche. I know how your industry works. Here's a package that gets that result. This is what it includes. This is the investment. Let's pull the trigger. And if they're like, that's not going to work for me, then let's go to the proposal, because now we're getting custom jobs. But remember, if you're doing a custom work, then it deserves a premium price, right? I think the package could do the same thing that your proposal is doing for you. I really do think that. Scott says, besides nickeling and diming questions in the consultation phase, what are some of the tells you would recommend to look out for? I'm assuming you mean for a bad client, right? Tells that when heard on a call with a prospect are warning signs to stay away, and or this may be a difficult client. I think this is a really personal, Scott. Things that I might be okay with, you might not be. Things that you are okay with, I might not be. So morally, I think you've got to know what your moral stance on things are, right? If something is shady, are you going to? What's the level of gray you're willing to tolerate, right? And where does the black start? I think moral questions definitely come into play. But for me, there's something called the is and is not system. And it's basically, you take a piece of paper, you write on the top is, draw a line down the middle, and is not on the other side. And you can do this for your business and just go through and say, okay, my business is this. My business is not that. And for me personally, there are things that I want to work remotely so that I can travel. I can spend my time with my family. I want to work with people who are going to put in the work. So I don't want to work with somebody who's kind of wishy-washy. I want people who appreciate what I do, so I don't negotiate on my price. I leave it at where it's at. I've got 2 slots that I consider kind of flexible, but apart from that, I don't negotiate, because I want my clients to appreciate what I do. And so for me, there's some really personal things. If someone wants me in person in their office on a weekly basis, guess what? It's not going to happen, because I want to be able to work from Rome if I happen to be in Rome, or I want to work from, my office in St. Louis or my home office here outside of St. Louis. So I think to answer your question, it's kind of a individual situation. But if you if people are talking about shady things, maybe, people are talking about, hey, we had this, if they're the mafia, maybe you want to stay away from them. But aside from that, it's really a personal decision. If they're talking about, shady, we're going to steal things, can you cover it up for us? Maybe not. Maybe not them. Okay, guys, cool. Any other thoughts or comments? Okay, thanks for joining me live. I see that we've got a lot of people here live. I really appreciate you participating during this conversation. And then if you wouldn't mind, keep the conversation going, right? Like Scott just commented again. He says one immediate tell for him is when they ask about performance-based pricing. 100% agree, but that's not true for everybody. Lots of people like performance-based pricing. So again, kind of an individual thing. Keep the conversation going, guys. Until next time, take some fast focus and perfect action. Thanks for being here with me. We'll talk soon.